Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to go through here and show you every single line. You're going to figure something out for yourself, but I want to look at some of these other pieces in here and where we get them. For instance, on our roof, we've got a TPO membrane that's super thin, right? And then we've got this board, a 1/2 inch cover board, and then a 5/8 inch cover board, and then some insulation. Okay, where would I get that stuff from? Well, if you go to insert and load family, I'm going to get away from the metals for a while because there's some other things that you can get there. But I'm going to go to thermal and moisture protection, right? And under thermal and moisture protection, you see I have thermal insulation, I've got roofing and siding, I've got sheet metal flashing and trim, and you're going to need that on some of the other projects. But what if I went and got roofing and do I need siding? No, I don't have any metal panels. I don't need anything like that. But under roofing, I'll definitely need thermal insulation, right? And I can say rigid insulation section, right? And I can say open. And now that I've got the roofing insulation, right, under detail items, rigid insulation section, I'm pretty sure this is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to pull this out and watch what happens when I pull this out. There's my rigid insulation section. Now that's 1.5. Maybe mine is 2. Let's check. Let's see. Let's move this. All right. Let's put it right here. Yeah, that looks about right, people. Right? And what's great about that is I can grab that and drag it, scroll, drag, drag, drag right up to my break line, right about there. Look at that. Now my insulation's in there, right? Now I could go in here and edit the type and fool around with some things so the insulation was more, but I'm not going to worry about that now. That's not a big deal. What about those cover boards? The gypsum here and the gypsum here. Well, if I go to load family and I come up here and I say, let's go to, I don't know, where would those cover boards be? Where would gypsum? Remember where that is? Up, wait a minute, finishes, maybe, right? Plaster and gypsum board, and I can say gypsum wallboard section, right? And now that the gypsum wallboard section's in here, I can say I know I need a 1/2 inch here, right? And that 1/2 inch, if I start it here, you see how that's on the bottom of there right now? But look how I can hit my space bar and flip it up on the other side, right? And I can draw it there. Now I can also say align to here, that, and now it's aligned, right? And now I can grab that and pull, scroll out, and I can pull all the way up here. And there's my gypsum board now. The same is true for this 5/8 piece at the bottom, right? I go to 5/8, and I could make it type X, right? But if I just drew it like this right now and hit my space bar, right, you see how it's covering? And I can pull, scroll, scroll out, scroll in while I'm holding down my left mouse button. I can still scroll, and I can come right to there. And that's good enough. So now I got both my cover boards on there. Now on top of this, I've got this TPO. Now where might I find that? Let's pause the video and talk about something. So we determined even though it should be under Division 7, it's not actually there. So how am I going to handle this? Well, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to have to make my own. So if I go in here and I say load family, right? Or not load family, I can say annotate, and I can go to detail line, and I can say, how would I go about this? What if I just use a filled region for this, right? And for that filled region, if I use a rectangle and I drew from here and I try to align that? How would I align that? Well, if I drew this, right? What if I drew this and I just drew that and I said align to here, this. You see, and then I said align to here, that. Whoops. It doesn't work, does it? It keeps drawing one edge or the other. So how should I draw this filled region? I should probably just come in here and say pick line, pick line. Sometimes it's simpler, people, just to pick lines. All right. There, all my lines are picked. And now I can say I want to use, maybe I want to use a solid black, right? But then I want to say, if I finish that, that may be a little dark for what I'm doing. So I might come back here to this fill region and say edit type, and I might say duplicate, and I'm going to call it TPO roofing, roof membrane. And I'm going to say, let's make that color this nice gray right here, that light gray. That looks a lot better, doesn't it? Okay, so that's how you start doing some of these. And I would do the same because TPO has to wrap over and be adhered to something. And the whole thing kind of wraps over. So you don't have this straight portion here. So what I would probably do is say, let's do another filled region. And let's do the TPO roof membrane that we created. I'm going to say hover, tab, tab, click, right? And so I got all of that. And then I'm going to say, let's delete that. And then here, I'm going to pull this down just a little bit, right? Right there. And then I'm going to say, give me a 1, 2. You see how I'm just doing a little bitty round thing right there. And then I'm saying, trim these two together. And then I'm even going to say, all right, that's not so great. Let me go back and say, let's draw a line that goes from here, right, to maybe right there. That's a little closer. And then I'll finish it. And that's good enough. You see how it kind of wraps over? And then I would probably go in here and say detail line. Let's make this a little fastener in here. Let's pick lines and 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Whoops. Let's go back, mess that up a little bit. Detail line, pick line. I've already got 1, 2, 3. I just want that fourth one right there, right? Because that's that ring shank that they push into the fastener along this wood strip right here to hold it into place, right? And just for technical terminology, a lot of times instead of mechanically fastening, we'll adhere it with an adhering, because if we don't have to puncture our membrane, especially on the top, we don't want to do that. We adhere it up here, but we actually fasten it on the face. And then we have things like the gutter, this piece of wood, and this other stuff that has to get drawn in. We've got some more rigid insulation along the wall here. And I'm going to leave a lot of that to you to finish up. But in the meantime, this isn't the only one that you're going to have to do. And you're probably like, oh, Joe, you're killing me. Well, the next step for you in this portion of it is to go in and say, all right, well, this is my first drafting view. And whenever I finish all of that, including the text, and for the text people, you're just going to pick a 3/32 inch Arial text. And you're going to have to just go in and type, you know, right? Let's say we put that in there, right? So we've got our text in there and we click on it and we can go in here and say, give us a fill 20-degree arrow. That's what Joel likes. And we can make our text a width factor of 0.75. You know, it makes it a little, see how it makes it a little thinner. And you're going to point down and look at these things, right? And you make your text line up really nice like that. And you're going to do all that for these as well. So you're going to type all that text in. It's a process, people. But let's look at these next two wall sections, all right? And we need to set the drafting view for those. So again, we go to view, and we'll go to drafting view, and we'll say wall section, whoops, let me take my caps lock off. Now for this, I'm going to make these 3/4 inch equals a foot. They're going to be a little smaller, right? Wall section 2. And the last one I'm going to do one more drafting view, and this is going to be called wall section 03. 3/4 inch equals a foot. And in wall section 02, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say insert, and I'm going to go load family. I'm sorry, I'm going to say link CAD, sorry, not load family. I'm going to link CAD, and I'm going to use wall section 02 here. And now you're like, oh, what happened? Where'd it go? If I hit ZE on my keyboard for zoom extents, there's my wall section 2. And then in wall section 3, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say link CAD. I'm going to go to wall section 3. And I'm going to do all that same stuff and say open and just do ZE on my keyboard. And there's my wall section 3. So what you're going to have to do is go in and do some of the same things that you did in the first video. You're going to be drawing in these items to the best of your ability as far as using actual Revit detail items in some of these. Like for instance, there's our decking again, right? There's our friend the metal deck. So where did we find that? We said non-composite decking section. And if we measure what this is, we'll find out that this is about 1.5 inches. So that 1.5 inch, 18. If we bring it in, look at that, fits pretty good there, right? And I can bring it in and I can just say align to here, right? And then I can grab that and say move that from here over to here. And I can go snap in. Up, that snap in didn't work too good there. Let's try this again. Let's say, can I align this to here? Will that work? Nope, that doesn't quite work. So because they're a little different in size, if you remember that from before. So we'll just move it over approximately. And that's going to do just fine, people. You know, you can kind of split the difference a little bit. It's not going to really matter. Because once we turn off our CAD file, just like in this first one, when we're done with everything, we're going to click on this. We're going to come down here, hover, and we're going to right click and say hide and view elements. You're going to do that in all of your wall sections when you draw them. Now, just a couple of other items in this second one, just so you can kind of see it, I'm going to copy a few of these just for housekeeping purposes. I'll go ahead and just, I've got multiple selected. Right, I've got that in here. A few of those. And then what about this joist? That would be a pain in the butt to have to draw. Well, the good news is you don't have to, because if you go into insert and load family, right, and we go back up to division 5, which is metals, we can go to what? What can we look for? Steel joist framing. And I can say this is a K series from the side. And I'll say okay, and I'll say maybe this is maybe this is a 12K5. Okay, I'm guessing right now, but as I look over here, 12K5, that's close but no cigar, right? So I'm going to place that there just for a moment, and then I'm going to come up here and say, if I do a measurement from approximately here down to here, I'm at what? I'm at 13 inches. 13 inches, 1 foot, 1 inch. So this right here is actually what? That's 1 foot. So is there one that's 13 inches deep? It probably is. Let's see if we can find one. Let's load family, and we're gonna go in here to the K series and from the side and say open, and look at this. Is there one in here that's quite 1 foot 1? No, there is one that's 1 foot 2, this 14K1, And that's going to be close enough for us, right? We're going to click on that and we're going to say, let's use the 14K one. All right. Now what I can show you, all right, I'm going to move this up. And then I'm going to move it over. So the seat is sitting right on top, right? It should be sitting right on top of that beam, but because it's an inch deeper, it's a little much of a problem. Here's what I can do, people. I click on this one and I can say edit type. All right. And the nice thing about this, let's make one called a 13K one. There really isn't a 13K one, but I'm just going to make one for our benefits here. And then when I'm in here, look at this depth. See, I can change the depth to 1'1". And now, see how that thing fits a lot nicer in there? And you're like, Joel, I don't like how, you see how you can change the size of the seat that's in there, right? So if I say this seat is aligned out to here, see what I'm doing there? I can also say, go ahead and align my seat a little further, maybe out to like right here, like in the CAD file. And it's just a little bit of trial and error, people. I'm not asking you for it to be perfect, because a lot of times what's shown in AutoCAD drawings can be wrong, right? But you see how that section is shown right there, just like that. And if I keep dragging that out there, look what happens. That thing comes too far out. So what's going to happen in this instance, because you have so much in this particular view, you see you don't have all the rest of those in there, we would typically cut our detail off at that point, right? Because we really don't need everything that's back here. You see, we're showing a lot more of the decking that's in there. We really need to show it up to that point. Now I want to pause the video and talk about something for a minute. So we kind of talked about how to handle this situation with the joist, and you'll be able to not worry about having to edit that family, and you only need to show so much of this. All of this past this point isn't really as relevant in what we're doing now, but we do have other items in here that we're going to need to show. So what you use as detail lines and what you use as physical items is kind of going to be up to you in this sense. Now in the third section, as you look here, right, there's some things that they have in this video that they, not video, this particular detail view that they didn't do very well, like the insulation. Well, what we know is that we can come in here and get insulation, and we can draw insulation a lot easier in some of these spaces. For instance, this space where we have insulation that's only 1 in 1/28, I'm going to say come in here to the insulation and take it down to maybe 1 and a 16th, right? 1 and 1/16, and that's going to be close enough. You see that for what we're doing here, and you'll be able to draw that as far up the wall as you need to. In that instance, you can start there and then start again in that section, right? Little things like that. Revit makes it really easy to draw a lot of this stuff, right? One of the other things that you might have trouble finding could be these fasteners. I didn't really talk about them that much in the other video, but if you go in here to insert and load family, fasteners aren't all that hard to find. If you go under common work, and then you've got metal fastenings, you might be able to find something in here. You're not going to use a bolt, of course, because those are screws. And so where might we find screws? We might be able to find screws under section 6, under wood and plastic. Look at that. Under wood and plastics, common, let's see, fastenings. Look at that. So is there anything in here? No, not really. They don't have anything under here. in this particular version of Revit. What about under wood framing? No, nothing under there. So in an instance like that where you're not finding something, right, and you don't think you're going to find it anywhere else under here, that's one of the instances where it would be wiser just to go in and to go to annotate and detail line again, and then just do what? Click on pick lines, hover, tab, click, and then maybe select these other lines as well. Whoops, too small to create a line there. So I might have to actually draw a line in some of these, right? And really, people, that's going to be up to you a lot of times. What's going to be the best way um, to find some of these items. And then once you got one of them, you just come in here and you group that, and you just call it fastener 01 or however you want to name it. And once you've got one, you can make the insertion point that tip, and then you can just say copy, one. Whoops, I meant to say snap end, copy, and then come up here and SE for snap end, and just kind of place them. I'm not going to make you watch me place a bunch of these, but just so you can see how that works. You're not always going to have something for Revit to put in there for you. So sometimes you're going to have to make your own items. It's even like with this insulation that's tapered. Sometimes the insulation function will work good, and other times a filled region is going to be better for you. You're going to make that decision yourself in that instance. So as you work on all three of these wall sections for this assignment, again, a little bit tedious, but important for you to understand. One of the last things that I want you to understand too is that here's this AutoCAD file in here. If I come back here and I go to VG or VV, Visibility Graphics, look here in these categories, right? How you can come in here and under imported categories, you can look at the layers, the AutoCAD layers that are in these categories, and you can actually turn them off and on. You see how you can turn some of these off and on, and things will disappear, as if I turn off the text and the metal detail and apply that and hit OK, some little things will turn off sometimes. So that's another function that's helpful to perhaps use in here, especially if you have it linked and not necessarily inserted. So I know this is a lot of information. The video went way longer than I planned, but hopefully you'll know enough to be able to go in and use these. And what's cool is that if you use something in one view, like if you got a fastener that you made in this view, what's super helpful is look what I can do. I can click here, and remember this, I can say copy the clipboard, and then I can say go back to this section where I need it, and I can do what? Paste from clipboard, and there's my fastener. So you don't have to make it in every view, right? You can share it. So you can copy, and then you can take this and move that and use that in that view as well, okay? So that's all it's going to be for today, people. We're going to pick up on Wednesday and kind of integrate this with a much smaller detail, and integrate it with schedules and see how we can use certain portions of schedules to help us with this. And then after Wednesday, we'll kind of wrap up the detail views and schedules portion of our learning process this semester, okay?